I don't know what to do with my hands.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon podcast, where we discuss the spirit of Kentucky. My name is Perry. Thank you guys so much for being here. I have with me a returning guest, my father-in-law, Mr. Brett Bellamy. Welcome back, Brett.
Welcome to me. Thank you.
Welcome to you, despite guest. And then we have somebody new on the show, a good friend of ours, Mr. Josh Butcher, local troubadour.
Hi, I'm super nervous.
What are you nervous about? You normally play music in front of people.
I know, this is very different.
Just think about, like, everybody's going to hear it in a couple of weeks instead of live.
Well, I'll look at it that way.
Anything you don't like, I can just edit out.
That part is
That's a good thing. It's a challenge to know we need to be intriguing and
Yeah, exactly.
interesting.
So, as we normally do, of course, we drink on the show, and I just killed a bottle of Buffalo Trace.
By himself in one sitting.
Chugged it, down, gone. That's how I warm up for every show.
Crushed the bottle on his forehead.
And as his
Glass bottle?
As his father-in-law, these are great things to know about my son.
Kindred spirits, man.
Yes.
Spirits.
It's the first pick that the Carolina Whiskey Society did of Buffalo Trace. And like I've been saying, we went and did a pick with them, too, of another barrel of Buffalo Trace a few weeks ago, and that's going to be coming out soon, I hope. And I have another bottle of this, too. That's why I wanted to kill it, just because the new one's been staring at me. So I was like, well, we may as well.
Good a reason as any, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this isn't going to have a lot of the normal characteristics of Buffalo Trace on it. And while some of them are there, it's going to pick up some other stuff, too. And, like, for me, Buffalo Trace is typically really just a very well-rounded, caramel-heavy, oak-heavy bourbon. But with this, I always get, like, some citrus on the nose, particularly. And then there's some kind of, like, mint in there, too, which makes it really different for me in terms of a pick, and especially something from Buffalo Trace. But what do you guys think? So we all sit here.
I'm just going to go ahead and throw my disclaimer out right now that I don't have near the refined anything that you have.
That's okay.
I basically like stick my nose in there, and it's either very pleasant or it's
either good or bad.
Or it's not. Yeah, it's like
we don't like
that really
when that
burns or.
Yeah.
Man, that's really smooth.
We don't want a lot of ethanol to hit our nose. We want to be able to really smell the esters and all the wonderful things that make bourbon.
Yeah, and there's not much ethanol on the nose at all. But I really do think that the palate is where this one shines through. And if you guys haven't had a taste of it yet,
it's time.
It's time.
All right, let's do this.
So yeah, go
Cheers,
for it.
boys.
Cheers, y'all. We'll get a good clink in later on.
Yeah, we haven't even introduced the location yet.
We're back in the Rusty Pistol Saloon.
Yeah, it's just a warm-up drink here.
Fine establishment.
Yes, which is an invite-only establishment, but
eclectic.
Yes,
it's very eclectic.
There's a little bit of everything for everybody here.
This is where it's sort of a shame that there is no video, although
it's coming. We will do the Tuesday streamer.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do a Tuesday stream. Go ahead, Josh.
If it got on the internet or something, it might get red flagged by the by the feds. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, just to clarify too what we were saying, I've been doing a live stream on Instagram and Facebook every Tuesday night for the past few weeks. Just kind of get some more content out there and drink some more bourbon. We've been having some special guests on from time to time. Like last night, I had the guys from the podcast on, Will and the Grease. Is there a third dog in here?
Yes, we have lots of dogs.
Forgot about Daisy.
The Rusty Pistol is well guarded, just so you know.
I really didn't know that Daisy was here.
Yeah.
Maybe the best bar in
Well
town, but it's
guarded
also the
by
most secure.
Two geriatric healer mixes and a deaf.
And a deaf dog, yeah, exactly. There's also a healer mix.
So this Buffalo Trace pick, I really do think that it's a super citrusy bourbon. I think it is a good, easy sipper. You can drink it just about any time. I also think you could get in trouble with it a little bit.
Yeah,
It is smooth, it's going into the palate and a little spicy going when it finishes, and it's nice. But it doesn't shirk on any of the bourbon flavor that just your basic bourbon lover is going to want to taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think it's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit with all the the new. There's always this new fancy stuff coming out. And people sometimes forget about your regular old Buffalo Trace, who makes all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I think it gets passed. I mean, I know I do it. I pass it up on the shelves
Yeah.
a lot because we're looking for, something new and,
One
for
of
lack
the
of a better term, fancier that we
Yep,
haven't
yep.
tried
Or new
yet.
to you.
it's
Yeah.
it's a curse and a blessing of living in bourbon country.
Yeah.
When you go to just your basic liquor store, you're overwhelmed by just an array of choices, and every time you go, there's something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And you're like, you dig a little deeper, and sometimes you find it may be bottled somewhere that you don't like, or may not actually come from Kentucky, but there's still so much out there, and you want to try something new every time. And like you said,
There's some of these staples that just sort
Buffalo
of you just
Trace,
you
man.
overlook.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's just-
not to give it away, but there's we got another one in the lineup there.
Yeah.
That just sort of it's so stand.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
so-
yeah,
it's
for
so-
sure, for sure.
It's so common, if you will, that you just sort of go.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so don't
Yeah, man, I
forget
forgot.
your good old standbys, man. And if we get to them, we have a few here for Perry to try, and that are just staples of the industry. And
Well, that's what I actually wanted to, for the topic for the show today was going to be house bourbons. And we both have our go-tos for house bourbons, and I wanted to, just kind of talk about what the ideal, or not necessarily ideal, but, something that you would prefer for a house bourbon to be. But we'll get there. I have to ask, as I always do, to get things kicked off, what have you guys been drinking recently? And I know that you just made a purchase that was a little bit out of the norm
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we stick pretty close to the the Barton. We keep the Barton on hand pretty often.
good old VOB 100 proof, bottled in bond, straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey, no questions about it.
And then we got the Bullet Rye there that
Yeah, that was his deviation that Perry
I
spoke
don't
of.
deviate very much. I love my gin and tonics. I've been on kind of a kick with those lately again, but yeah, we picked up a bottle of that Bullet Rye. I mean, you can't, like I was telling you, you can't just pigeonhole. I love my bourbon. That's my go-to. My
Sure,
first
yeah.
first and foremost true love. But that's you gotta mix it up a little bit from time to time. So.
what I love too about Bullet Rye is that it is kind of the bourbon drinker's rye,
I'd like to say that. Yeah.
where it's not I don't think it's a high rye bourbon, like in terms of mash bill. But it has all those really notable characteristics of bourbon, but just changes the game a little bit, which, it's a rye whiskey. But I think it's a good early approach for bourbon drinkers who are trying to get into rye.
Yeah.
But
That's good,
I
buddy.
guess other than that, I've been drinking a lot of Zima lately.
Yeah, we've
Have you really?
on a
No,
Zima
no,
kick.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
I
not.
was like, podcast over. Podcast over.
You
My
asked. I
goodness.
told you.
Yeah, they have that new Kentucky Straight Bourbon Zima,
Yeah.
right next to the bacon flavored bourbon from Tennessee.
Right.
We do like to keep here. It's something we might try later, but we always keep bottled in bond bourbons here, and
100%.
that is what we like to do. And we like the classics that just always on the shelf. Like you might want to pass right by. I'm telling you, just stop yourself from spending $60, $70 every single time you pick up a bottle, and spend $21 and see how much you like it.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, if it's bourbon, it's got to be good. That rule used to apply, but if you start looking closer at some of the labels, it's not that anymore. But you get some good classic Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys, man, that have been around for 160, 170 years. Telling you what, you cannot go wrong.
There's some real gems on the lower shelves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, Heaven Hill has kind of cornered the market
That's our
with their lower shelf bottled and bond offerings. And it's not just the 6-year Heaven Hill bottled and bond, but they also have T.W. Samuels, which is a great one. Drawing a blank, of course. JTS Brown, J.W. Dant. There's a whole slew of lower shelf bourbons that are just fantastic, but get overlooked again because they are
they're down there.
Lower.
They have
and cheaper, and could be, you could have those preconceived notions about them not being very good, which is stupid because they are.
They're
and
good.
They check all the boxes for me. It's distilled, aged, and bottled in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Bardstown, arguably the mecca of bourbon making. It's they're 90 and above proof. It's aged 6-ish years.
Right. Yeah.
What else do you want, really?
No. It's, by the way, too, special shout out to our friends over at 1792, the 1792 Barton Distillery. They had a huge accident. When this episode comes out, it'll be a couple weeks ago. But sucks to see so much good bourbon be lost in a
Tragic.
rickhouse collapse.
Yeah. Has anyone have they measured what was actually lost? I know they had 9,000 or so barrels affected, but many were still intact.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I know that some of it did wind up getting into the nearby stream, unfortunately, but I don't know exactly how many barrels they lost.
Maybe Tennessee will get lucky, and some of that will flow downhill to them.
I was gonna say,
Jack Daniels might be drinkable for 1 minute.
Yeah, I saw that and just dropped to my knees. Why couldn't it have been Jack Daniels?
Speaking of Jack Daniels,
that's not fair.
Yeah, speaking of Jack Daniels,
Jack Daniels has it. I'll go ahead and say Jack Daniels has its place.
Sure,
and
just not in Kentucky.
Just not at our bar.
Well, apparently its place right now is in the Rusty Pistol Saloon because I brought a little bit for us to try, which
God,
I have not
clear. It looks like watery iced tea.
It's very clear, yes.
And he did it in the tackiest possible way. It's a plastic pocket
bottle.
flask for those teenagers trying to drink in school.
Look, did you really think I was going to shell out the money for a full bottle of Jack
You
Daniels?
paid for that? You
of course
actually
I
paid
did.
money for that?
Yeah, it was like
do we need to fire up?
$7.
Do we need to fire up the Bro Country Pandora station right now?
Yeah, let's something about buy me a boat. Let's get that on there.
A little splash Jack in my Coke. And
Look,
blah,
I
blah,
just
blah.
figured it would be something funny and different to try on the show,
right.
especially since what we're talking about is house.
I was excited
Whiskeys.
about this. I'd never gotten to do one of these before. Now I feel like we're getting punished.
Look,
Yeah.
man, you've got good stuff coming in a little bit.
But y'all have to understand.
That's right. All this will do is make us appreciate this other stuff even more.
We have certain games in this bar, like many bars have games of chance and skill. And Jack Daniels, only when it's gifted to the bar, has been the punishment beverage for losing the game.
We are only half kidding. We
No,
have nothing necessarily.
I'm
against-
I'm wholly not kidding.
Also,
Okay, he's rinsing out our glasses with the Jack Daniels, which we're pouring into the dump bucket. Right. Now I'm presenting them back to
I cleaned mine out with water.
Oh, you actually? I thought that was.
No, he really is dumping out.
I'm really dumping it
He's
out.
really cleansing our glasses. With
Well, there goes $8
Tennessee
of
swill.
Tennessee whiskey.
Oh, you spent $7.99 too much.
Hey, I just bought an entire case of VOB, so we'll be fine. Nobody's going thirsty for some good bourbon.
By the way,
this is good fun.
so we have a whole lot of things that are happening. Like,
Oh, did you get that? Barry? Turn his mic up real quick.
Oh, I stuck my nose in there. That was.
wow, that nose is really bad.
Oh, isn't it?
It's bananas. It's just straight bananas.
It is, and even I can tell that. And
It's
How do you spell that?
BANANAS.
Yeah, that's
think
what
It's
it is.
bananas.
yeah.
Wow,
could you use it?
people.
Could you use it in a sentence, please?
This Jack Daniels smells like nothing but bananas.
Bananas. BANANAS. Bananas.
You, sir, are correct. You're moving on to the second round of the Scripps
Yes.
National
Yes.
Spelling Bee.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Splendid.
It smells like artificial bananas too. It doesn't smell. It smells like what they use
Like
in.
runts.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I would think that like
Banana runts.
if If Starburst had a banana flavored candy, this would be what it smells like.
Yeah.
Man, we're just dunking all over this.
Oh,
but
no, I feel almost bad right now.
Hey, it's my bar.
is it the bourbon or is
It
it
is my by God bar. And I can ask you to leave for ordering this, all right? I have that right.
Hey, I brought my own into the bar. I know that's
I know
illegal,
it.
but
Well, it is. There's no laws here. So
Okay,
luckily
well-
you're in a lawless state here.
I'm not gonna. I had something I was gonna say, but I don't want to. I don't want to cheers with this.
Here's to
so-
Tennessee, where the men are men and the sheep are nervous.
Cheers.
It even tastes like fake bananas, kind of.
Okay, just so you know,
That's it. That's all I taste.
if any of y'all have ever been to a proper bourbon tasting where you roll it around in your mouth and breathe over it, and
There's no need.
no, just get it
There's
over
no
with.
need for
I
this.
made the mistake of doing that. Now I have half a drink here. I have to finish somehow.
Okay, well, here's what
Okay.
I'm gonna say. Let's just kill it.
All right, kill him,
All
kill
right,
him,
down
kill
the
him.
hatch. Here we go.
Because that was awful.
Oh God!
God, it's like, well, the charcoal, whatever they do there, gives it a nice, like when you roast a marshmallow too much.
Don't pull this crap with me, Josh Butcher.
Like when you over roast a marshmallow,
Yeah.
it's
There's
like
nothing good about
charred
this.
and black and disgusting.
Some
It's like
people-
if you did that with a banana.
Yeah, some people might think that delicious. Well,
If
it's
you
not.
if you roasted a banana
Did you
over the
get your-
fire and
yeah.
charred it and ruined it,
You mean to dump that for you? Is that the water?
No, this water. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
gonna.
can dump bucket it
Oh
for you.
God, I think it'd take baby food to get
Yeah.
that taste out.
Okay, well,
But
let's.
we have to save some. You have to leave that at the bar because we need a proper
JD?
punishment. Yeah, we need
Yeah,
a
okay.
proper punishment drink
Sure.
for losing the old pirate ring game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna drink something better now.
Oh yeah.
Good old Wild Turkey 101.
There we go.
Which
Splendid.
our buddy Chad over at It's Bourbon Night considers, I think, at this point, to be his house bourbon. It used to be Henry McKenna Bottled and Bond, but
Which
now that
we
it's
always
becoming
liked, yeah,
which
yeah.
now that it's becoming so scarce, not such the case anymore.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Wild Turkey 101, John Wayne's drink of choice.
Was it
Ah,
really?
Very nice.
Yes,
Huh.
it was.
Did not know
if you
that.
ever needed any more reason to drink it, there it is.
Did not know that. Well, so what I was going to say earlier was that the week that this comes out is a big week for some people in this room.
Oh yeah.
One of them being my father-in-law, Brett Bellamy, who is in fact getting married the Saturday that this episode comes out.
Oh, splendid,
and it's
splendid.
July 4th as well. It's Independence Day, or
In that
celebration of our
weekend.
country. So, in honor of all that, I would like to say a hearty cheers to our good buddy Brett
Oh, thank you, sir.
and his
Cheers.
blushing bride
Cheers.
Annie.
my
Cheers,
blushing
Pilgrim.
bride.
Cheers to y'all.
I'll
That was
take
the
that.
best. That was my best John Wayne.
That
It
was
wasn't
that was
very-
dandy. Try it again after you
Cheers,
finish the
Pilgrim.
A man's got to do what he thinks is best. Is that any better? I never any
shot.
better.
That was splendid.
You didn't throw a pilgrim in at the
Yeah,
end.
well,
there at
he, can't
the
throw,
end,
he didn't
but
always say pilgrim.
It's
Yeah.
This is a total
It's
180.
it's another overlooked one,
Yeah.
for a lot for us at least. But it is. We have people that have contributed to our bars that we've done, and
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the. I will give you. I will be a contributor, but always have Wild Turkey 101
Yep,
on
yep,
hand.
exactly.
It is a
You
classic.
can't go wrong with it.
No.
No, not at all.
You just simply can't go wrong.
What's so
with
funny is it's a total 180 from what we just had, in
It
that
is flavorful, proofful.
and it is everything that I think that a cheap or house bourbon should be. I mean, and if you're paying more than like $20 for this bottle, get out. Go spend your money elsewhere. 'cause-
101. I mean, that's just.
Well, it's a $20 bottle though. I mean, at its like MSRP, I think
Yeah.
is supposed to be about $20.
I mean, you do get that. We have always had a hard time describing it or putting words to it. But when we try these, these great offerings that are out there we spoke of that are in the lower shelf range, that's one of the things they try to surpass with us is there's a taste. It's like you get it on your tongue at the end of a cheaper bourbon. It's not really metallic. It's just sort of that unaged flavor. And that is,
Yeah.
well, you get just a little bit at the end of this after it's wallowed around on your tongue for a minute.
I get like predominantly kind of a nutty flavor with it. Not necessarily like peanuts, but just kind of like a nondescript peanut flavor to it, or nut flavor to it.
Well,
Excuse
Perry,
me.
I always thought you were crazy. Now I see you're nuts.
it. You see his nuts.
Hey, you have to remember, we got a head start
There's-
on.
look at
We
my
got a head
nuts.
start on Perry.
There's one of those that's gonna get edited out.
No, that's got to stay.
No, that's staying in. That's staying in.
That's the beauty of these podcast butchers. Like, the further they go, the more ridiculous they get. And
We
that's why people listen to them.
earned that explicit rating on iTunes. Let me tell you.
Oh, we do. We have an explicit rating. The Spotify rate. Oh, by the way, please mention that to your listeners.
Yeah, it's on Spotify.
Is
We're
this
on
where we do,
Spotify
like,
now
the fine
too.
print, like the Micro Machines guy, like no nuts were visible in the podcast. In the podcast of this podcast.
No nuts were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Right. Yeah.
I might throw that in at the very
Oh,
beginning
I
of this
like that.
episode.
Oh,
Actually,
We will do a little bit there for post production.
that'll be the intro to this
Careful
episode.
though, this podcast ain't over yet.
Yeah, it's only just begun.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of like
Your nuts could still be in
weird
jeopardy.
like ritual you guys are planning for me.
Well, you are a guest of the Rusty Pistol.
Hey, there's a hazing routine
Yeah.
here.
I brought you guys good bourbon and Jack Daniels.
You made a
Well,
drink
good
Jack
bourbon,
Daniels.
but
Your nuts
Yeah.
are definitely in jeopardy.
Yeah, you mentioned two things in one breath that's sort of counterintuitive to each other. I brought you great bourbon.
The minute
And
you
Jack
poured
Daniels.
us a glass of Jack Daniels, you put your nuts in jeopardy.
it's all out of the window.
That's right.
Okay, let's stop talking about my nuts and talk
All
about
right.
bourbon if you guys don't
Agreed.
mind.
No, I'm good with that. Yeah.
But one more, real quick, in case you missed it, and in case Butcher missed it, he is now on Spotify with This Is My Bourbon Podcast. That's a big move, man.
Yeah, we're not just
Yeah.
on iTunes or Google Play anymore. We finally got approved to be on Spotify. Let me tell you, the process that you have to go through with Spotify is basically just waiting, but the process you have to go through is just arduous. And I was so tired of waiting. And like I alluded to it in my Instagram and Facebook post, I was like, "We're finally on."
Yep.
Like I did not hold back from expressing my discontent. But anyway, thank you Spotify for letting us be on the.
Absolutely. Here's the Spotify.
Yeah, cheers.
Clink somewhere in there. Well, whatever. Hey, did you get that?
Hey, cheers.
There it
This
is.
to you, Spotify.
I drank and then clinked. But that's just me. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about house bourbons. Why don't we?
Yep, I
Let's
like
do
it.
that.
So when we say house bourbons, what we kind of mean is a bourbon that you typically will offer to people who, are at your house and you're just kind of trying to, give them something to drink while they're there. You go, this is the bourbon that I normally sip on every day. And I think, too, that kind of falls into the category of like an everyday sipper. And like for me, it tends to be Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. In Kentucky, thanks. It was a very ginger little drop there.
Yeah.
In Kentucky, Kentucky's actually the only place that you can get Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond,
Yep.
which is a 6-year product. It's $12 to $13. It's extremely cheap.
Yep, we literally just came from the liquor barn, and yeah, it's on the bottom, and it's 12 and change.
Yeah.
12 something.
Which is
Exactly.
amazing, people. Listen to us.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about cheaper bottled and bonds being your house bourbon.
Perry, could you, real quick, because I know that we're a bourbon lover heavy audience here on the show, but is there any extra little clarification you could throw at our listeners for what makes a bottled and bond?
Yeah,
So-
it's surprising. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
I was
so,
one of them.
So bottled and bond has to be at least 4 years old, 100 proof.
That's very important, people. At
Um,
least 4 years old. You're going to find some really, really young bourbons out
Yeah.
there now
And
some of them 6 months.
that pass through a barrel on their way.
Yeah.
30-minute
Just a
bourbon.
whisper of oak through them. Yeah.
It has to be aged in a government-regulated warehouse, I believe.
Which, whatever.
Well, that's the only
that's
part
the-
of us, libertarians, a little problem with that. But other than that,
Uncle Sam, you got to get your dirty fingers
Well,
and everything.
here's the thing, though. But the important part about that is that it wasn't something that was regulated or put forth by the American government originally. It was put forth by Colonel Taylor, who was not in the pockets of America.
see,
He was
here
a
we go.
bourbon. He was
Well, I
a
asked
bourbon
this
lover.
question.
Colonel Taylor, whose namesake bourbon now is Colonel E.H. Taylor from Buffalo Trace, which is in fact a bottled and bond product, and his whole thing was the Bottled and Bond Act. So because of E.H. Taylor, we are able to enjoy bourbon the way that we do today, and specifically with, and they say it a lot more eloquently in neat which is the bourbon documentary that's
Right,
out
right.
on
I
Hulu
need
now.
to see that.
Yeah, you really should, man. We're actually going to be doing an episode sometime soon where we dissect it and talk about what makes it so awesome. It's a great movie. It's so much fun. It's not just like a documentary. It dives into the culture, too, of bourbon without trying to talk down to you or make you feel like you don't know anything about bourbon. Anyway, the whole point in this is that it was somebody who loved bourbon that wanted to make it the best that it possibly could be. And it wasn't a government official that said, "Hey, we should really, think about
It
making
wasn't
this."
some pointless regulation of some sort.
Yeah,
Bureaucracy.
Exactly.
It was actually for the love of bourbon.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is
I
that
like it.
Bottled and Bond still to this day maintains this aura of being what bourbon should be.
Agreed.
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 How many times have we had a bourbon that is less than 4 years old? And by the way, bourbon doesn't have to be any specific age. You could dump it into a barrel and then dump it right
Just
back out
literally
30 minutes
run it
later.
through a bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
As
Yeah,
long as that-
and
as long as it
could be-
touches that new charred white oak.
Yeah,
and
but,
it's new, yeah.
but how often do we go, "Oh, this is under 4 years, I don't like it."
Mm-hmm.
Bottled and Bond provides us with a product that is going to be not guaranteed, but at least, we have something that we can assume is going to be a...
There's an assurance there that
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
the quality, the product you're getting is the real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always
Absolutely.
lived under the impression that bourbon had to be at least 2 years old to be called bourbon.
Nope.
And that's entirely
Yeah,
false.
there's
It has
a lot of misconceptions out there.
Well, it has to be at least 2 years old to be considered straight
Drink.
bourbon.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But below that, it can be called bourbon.
Yep.
Anyway, so I think to me, at the very least, a Bottled and Bond bourbon is what a house bourbon
Yep.
kind of should be.
Absolutely.
'Cause you can-
You were
No, go
just
ahead.
talking about the Heaven Hill. Not to keep tooting the Heaven Hill horn here, but I'll just use it as an example. Like we were talking about, it's on the bottom shelf, so people tend to overlook it. But at the end of the day, Bardstown, Kentucky, Bottled and Bond, 6 year.
Yep.
100 proof.
100. I mean,
100 proof.
what more do you want in your
Come on,
bourbon
people.
whiskey? I mean, I don't know what else
What
to
has
do
happened
for
to
you.
you all?
If that doesn't fit the bill, I don't know what else to do for you. I mean, especially at a $12, $13 after tax
Yeah.
price point.
Well,
I mean,
I love too that 100 proof is kind of this like benchmark for not what makes good whiskey necessarily, but what we kind of prefer. And then we start talking about things like Turkey 101, which is 101 proof, and then we think about Weller Antique, which is 107 proof.
Yep,
I mean, there's this nice little niche market of bourbon, niche, whatever.
Yeah.
Of bourbon that hovers around 100 proof that functions so well as everyday sippers or house bourbons that just kind of get overlooked. And I think that it's funny when people go for higher dollar
it is
things
And-
as a house bourbon.
And me and Brett have talked about this. It's like, because we've splurged on some of these 60, 70, 80, even up to $100 bottles of
Yeah,
stuff.
you know when Butcher's had a really
And-
good gig.
Yeah.
He either buys a gun or expensive bourbon.
Or both.
Or both.
Usually not. My gigs aren't that good, but
we did
but,
have that one night where we were playing a parlay social and the guy dropped
that was unique.
What was that, like $1,000 in the
it
jar?
might as well be, sure.
$500 bills.
That's
And
what
one-
it was. It was,
and
it
one
was
customer,
Yeah, he
$500.
said,
And
I want to hear some Pearl Jam, and we said, by God,
anything for you.
here you go,
Anything.
buddy.
and if you people have never heard these two play together, it's
That
something
was
special.
a fun night. That was a
Maybe
That
we
was
take a
a
break. We'll
lot
tune
of
up a
fun.
guitar or two. I'll see if I can persuade him.
That might be a YouTube exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh,
for-
love that.
for
Yeah,
people.
that'd be great.
We'll do a
But
friend of the devil.
back to the point I was making is we've I haven't gone as far as the Pappy 23 year and all this and this, that, and the other.
It's not worth it.
But nothing against any of those. I'm sure they're great, but
No.
are they that much greater than some of these at your $20, $15 to $30 price points? I mean,
We always like to ponder the question: did the bourbon boom happen because of Pappy, or did Pappy become a product of the bourbon boom?
Chicken or the egg sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
I don't think Pappy became a product of the bourbon boom.
Well-
but it was there to basically engineer it and encourage it, and
And I'm sure it is delicious, but
Yeah.
it's also it's a scarcity thing. It's
No,
a-
it is absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
it's if it was just the shelves were stocked with it like everything else.
And if you're
it-
drinking Pappy 23 as your house bourbon,
yeah, well, yeah,
I want to live at your house.
email
I'm
in. This is
moving
your-
into your house.
You made better life choices than I did.
Send us a
Yeah.
message on Instagram or Facebook.
Tell
or
me what you
let's
do for
hang
a
out.
living.
Let's hang out.
I just want some advice,
Have
life
us over,
advice,
man. Because
Yeah.
but my point being is those are really good. Don't get me wrong, but are they? I mean, for the price discrepancy there, are they that much better than your Wild Turkey 101 or something like that? In my opinion, is not really. Not
Yeah.
after two
I
or
would.
three of them.
I would
anyway.
argue no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and especially like I say, not after two or three. Of them.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to propose, I'll be doing a blind bourbon tasting party here pretty soon. Maybe we can do a podcast around it.
I would love to. Oh my gosh, that'd be
I, as
awesome.
the host, or maybe not even me, the hostess may be the only one that knows what's in the plainly marked clear bottles.
I love doing that.
Everyone gets their chance to bring their go-to, their house bourbon, or their favorite, or their little, one they've had in their pocket for years that they just would love to see how it goes against others, and we'll just give it a
Let's
try
do that.
blindly.
Let's do that.
So
Absolutely.
I'll try to invite somebody that just has more money in their wallet than they know what to do with, and maybe we'll have one of those splendid picks amongst the
Let's
the
do
bottom
that.
shelves
Oh, my
and that sort of
goodness.
thing. So let's put this on the podcast, and
Oh
we'll
my gosh, that would be great.
we'll make a point of all this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
At the end of the day, if you can afford those and that's your thing, by all means.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
But for me, for my money, for my budget, I can't justify it.
Nope.
Not when there's so much good stuff that's not at that, 100 plus up to whatever thousands. I don't even know what that stuff goes for because I've never even considered getting
Right.
it. But
Pappy 23. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah. But yeah, I just can't, and I guess that's the point I've already made is that it's good. It's not 300% dollars better good. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, and Pappy 23 goes for I think like $250 at retail. But I've also seen stores, not secondary market, stores sell it for $2,500.
yeah, which to me is just astounding.
Well, don't forget my good friend Justin.
That's a Daniel defense, dude.
Good friend Justin Thompson, fraternity brother and good friend and bourbon lover.
Oh, is he a Delt?
He's a Delt.
I did not know
Delta
that.
Tau Delta, go Delts. And
my God.
also, we got a different fraternity man here, but Justin's House of Bourbon at one point had a Pappy bottle for $17,000.
Mm-hmm. I think they still have that bottle, if I'm honest with you.
I hope they do. But whoever buys it, I want his name and address. I want to
Yeah,
party with that guy.
If I'm going to spend that, I better be able to drive it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what's cool too about Justin's is that they have, and this is off topic from house bourbons, but anyway, they have some offerings that are in the lower tier
absolutely.
of vintage, and I'm quoting vintage bourbons.
Yeah, they do some bottle picks, barrel picks.
Yeah. So it's not all like, it's not like going to it's not entirely like going to a museum and seeing a price tag on a painting for $100,000.
I strongly encourage if you
Super cool place.
if
Oh, I
you
love
are a
it.
bourbon
Love
lover,
that
it
place.
should be on your top destination list. Especially if I know many people come to Kentucky just to do the trail,
Trail.
the bourbon trail.
Sure, yeah.
This needs to be a stop on the trail. Justin's House of Bourbon is really, really neat, and you can do some private room tastings.
Mhm.
And it's an amazing spot.
There's bottles of stuff in there that you will only see there,
And you'll never see again.
ever.
Kentucky changed the law that allowed the sale of vintage. We'll call them found bottles, like maybe in a basement or in an attic or a estate sale, that were put in the bottle in the 30s, 40s.
And I'm pretty sure within the past couple of weeks, they've changed that law again.
Oh, great.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Not that they got rid of it, but they changed it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'll post something about it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have to do a podcast at Justin's.
Justin's House Bourbon, good stuff.
Oh, I've
Yosh.
done one.
Awesome.
I've done one there.
Oh, splendid.
Yeah, I interviewed
Splendid.
Thompson for
But,
like the week after they came out, or excuse me, the week after they opened. They didn't come out of anything. The week after they opened, talked with them about the whole store and everything.
But we
anyway,
digress.
We
We
do
digress to
Hey, let's
glass.
let's
that
drink
is-
some bourbon.
that
do
has
that.
bourbon in it.
Let's
Yes.
do that.
That's
what we're here
Just
for.
that.
So what I just poured was Maker's Mark Cast Strength.
This is the one I've been very excited about.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
I want to throw in this real quick, as Lieutenant Butcher, as we call him here at the house, referred to. We like to go to the liquor barn and not to throw just a profit liquor barn, but
Window
we look,
shop.
window shop, and this is one of those that we reach for, but the price tends to pull our hands back.
Well, luckily for you guys, I know of a place in Richmond, Kentucky
Woo.
that sells Maker's Mark Cast Strength for $40 instead of its standard 60.
60
Yes.
plus.
60 to
Yes.
65, yeah.
So if you guys are interested in it,
All right.
Very
I
interesting.
can direct you
very
in the correct
interesting.
direction, and
You've never
I'll
steered
put it
us
there.
wrong before.
Never steered us
That,
wrong.
That
except for the Jack Daniels.
Well, he
That was
doesn't
an
much
outlier.
steer us as much jump out of the car.
we won't hold that.
While I was driving.
Yeah. You were driving and then just leaped out of the driver's side door and left us at like 80 miles an hour going down the highway. Yeah,
Somebody's phone ringing.
That's the live radio for you. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. So this the Maker's Mark Cast Strength. Maker's Mark actually is what a lot of people, and it's like my dad too in particular, considers to be like their house bourbon. It's
Sure, I mean,
90 proof, and like
and recognizable globally.
maybe the
Daggone-
most recognizable.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
if somebody,
Makers.
out
if you
there.
have
Daggone
somebody from
Makers.
another state or another country, whatever it may be, come visit you, and you break out a bottle of that, they immediately know what that is.
Exactly, yeah, and I think even to non-bourbon drinkers,
Yep.
it is
Exactly,
recognizable.
absolutely,
In the same way that Jim Beam kind of is considered to be, like, it's just synonymous with bourbon,
Absolutely.
you know. And we had a big conversation a couple weeks ago with Chad and Sarah of It's Bourbon Night about this list from Food and Wine on the 25 most important bourbons of all time. And number one there was Maker's Mark.
Wow.
And
I see it. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know entirely if I agree, and like I still kind of am questioning whether or not I agree with that. And you can go listen to the episode and everything and hear our discussion on it. But I think that Jim Beam should have been higher on the list, if maybe, you know, at like a number 2 or a number 3 or something.
Right,
like that.
right, I agree.
But
Well, you
Anyway.
know, I know how why you feel that way, especially about makers. But we've found that this whole new craft beer resurgence has made our drinking problem a nice little hobby.
I wouldn't call it a problem.
Not a problem as much as a
Yes.
challenge.
Yes,
A
it's
challenge. I like that. Yeah.
What does Brett always say? He said, "I'm not an
enthusiast.
alcoholic. I'm an alcohol enthusiast."
Yes, I'm an alcohol enthusiast.
I think I brought that up on the first time. you were on.
yeah. But we do a lot of event planning and some of the different things that we do here, and it's sort of the rule. If you have to have one beer, it's Bud Light. All right. None of us want to say that we are Bud Light drinkers, but unfortunately,
No.
if you've got to buy a keg of something, you're buying Bud Light. And if you have one bourbon choice for a party, it's going to be Makers.
I've always sort of, when I was living in Montana, you know, and a lot of people weren't very familiar with bourbon. It was one of those scenarios where I'd go into a bar and, what bourbons do you have? Oh, we got Jack Daniels and
Canadian
Wrong.
Mist.
yeah,
Wrong.
yeah, you know, Crown
Royal.
Royal. And
No,
I'm
no,
going,
you
okay,
guys said that
well.
at the same time. That was awesome.
okay, well, not to get too preachy here, but let's have a little talk.
Let me educate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing I could always count on them having on their shelves was Maker's Mark.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
For sure.
you know, and I made a lot of converts out there. And, but the one thing I would, you know, if you were going to try one for, you know, if you're new to the bourbon thing, Maker's Mark is usually the one I would point them at because, you know, it's got that higher corn percentage in the mash bill. It's a little sweeter. It's a little, for people that aren't used to drinking bourbon, it's a little more, I guess you'd say, a little more palatable for
Approachable.
them.
little doable
Yeah.
proof,
Sure. Sure. 90 proof.
And so that was sort of that was the one. Here you go. You need to, if you're I'm gonna sort of get you in the kiddie pool end of bourbon here. It's
Wade
Maker's
you
Mark.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you gotten to take a sip of this yet?
Not yet. We're waiting on you.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, cheers again, I guess.
All right,
we're just
we're-
going to cheers everything we...
Every time. Cheers. And you'll hear the tap to the bar.
Australia.
Do the Rusty Pistol.
See, I find that to be just fantastic.
It's very good.
And I'll be the first to admit, and this isn't a dig on them at all. Maker's Mark has never been one of my go-tos.
Sure.
It's never
yeah.
been one
I
of
agree.
my.
I agree.
And it's a fine bourbon. I'm not saying it's not.
But this
It's
is
just
where it
never been-
shines.
This is really something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's flavor forward. That's
If
for
you
sure.
have a chance to get your hands on this or try it, please do.
It
What's the exact proof?
110.9.
All right, I was gonna say this.
Does not drink like it.
Yeah. you know
No, I
you
don't
got
think so either.
you know you have a serious drink of bourbon,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't drink like 100 and almost.
It's got a
111
lot
proof.
of those Maker's qualities that
Yep.
millions of people have come to love. But for not to sound, I don't know how this would sound really, but for people that like us, it's got enough ass to it that
You gotta earn that explicit.
Bottom end?
Yeah,
Is that where you... I know what
No,
you're saying.
I'm talking like it's
just
got
messing with you.
some chutzpah.
yeah,
to it.
chutzpah.
Yeah, for
there
sure.
you go.
And it's got
It's got the proof. It's got the spiciness. It's got the flavor.
it's like Maker's Mark 2.0.
Yes.
I like it.
I'm gonna
Maker's
posit,
Mark Magnum.
I'm gonna posit a suggestion here. Add a couple of drops of water to it.
Well,
just take.
That's-
I already
Just,
drank all mine. I can't.
Oh, well,
wait
okay.
a minute. Yeah, we can.
that can be
refill your
be
glass.
remedied.
Okay, well,
So basically,
that was my excuse to just get some more of this because I'm serious. I was telling Brett about it. I got to try this not too long ago, and I said, "Man, you've got to try this stuff. It
Yep.
is
Yeah.
it is fantastic."
and you've never had this before, right?
Never. No, I many of you may want to know that I specifically sent a text to young Perry. He's like, "You bringing the Makers with you?"
And my response was,
Did it
sure.
and did it disappoint?
Oh, not at all. I haven't tried with the drops of water. I'm doing the
Okay, let it-
obligatory swirl here.
Yeah, let it mingle for just a second too, so that we can kind of let the water take effect and become almost an entirely different.
Really, really. Now, as someone who is an enthusiast of distilling and that sort of thing, now,
Mm-hmm.
That's really all that makes proof is the addition of new water to a
Exactly.
aged bourbon. So, what would you think as a someone who's really explored bourbon quite deeply? What have we done here other than try to bring it closer to the standard Maker's 90 by taking a cask-proof bourbon with all of its very explicit taste, but then added a little bit of water to it, which is going to lower the proof.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you could expound on why you think that's a little different than taking one that's been watered down, at the distillery, bottled and brought to you versus doing it
What are we
yourself.
drinking? How is this different than your?
So
standard
there's
bottle?
something, and I don't know, of course, because I don't have a science background, but there's something about the science of it
science.
where
Science? Are you blinding me with science?
I'm not trying to, because I
All right.
can't even blind myself with science.
All right.
But there is something about
Thomas Dolby.
taking a couple drops of water, and we lost Josh for a second, but there's something about adding a couple of drops of water to a cask strength bourbon that tends
Okay.
to open up some of the more repressed flavors.
Okay.
Or notes that you would find on the nose or the palate or what have you. And it's not that it necessarily makes for a better experience
It's a
with
different
it.
one.
Yeah, exactly. It's just and again, not elevating. I don't want to use the word elevating. It's just altering your experience to see what this bourbon can be at different stages.
Got it.
And we've done it countless times before, especially almost beckons to be done with bourbons over 100 proof, just to see how it is altered and just changed by adding a couple of drops of water.
Gotcha.
Brett, would it be sort of similar to your, you're the absinthe guy, would it be like straight absinthe versus your loached
Yeah.
absinthe,
Well, I will say absolutely for that, because if any of you have ever drank absinthe straight from the bottle, you probably don't remember the experience afterwards. Well, you low yours, you just drank an entire half a bottle.
Yes.
But yes, yeah.
Kids don't try that at home
Do
ever,
not.
ever.
Or away. Home, away.
Yeah, don't try that anywhere.
Not that
don't
anywhere.
do that anywhere.
Anywhere.
That was
But
fun
yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
Looking back on it,
But
not
looking
so
back.
much. Gosh, I can't imagine what the day after was like for
Oh,
you.
well, I can, because there are witnesses.
There's witnesses.
At that time, Joshua was working at a very famous horse farm and was found in the fetal position for hours.
Yeah,
my
the
gosh.
farriers were there that day.
Yeah,
and,
the blacksmiths.
They
Crazy.
had. Fortunately, the folks I worked with were kind enough to sort of not make put salt in the wound on that one. They just sort of let me be, let me ride that one out.
I don't envy that experience.
Oh,
I'll be
awful.
really
It
honest.
was
with you.
awful.
So,
anyways,
But
let's-
yes,
let's-
it is a beverage that absolutely must have water, and
Sure.
and so I'm interested to try this.
yeah, so I would say sorry, are we cheersing?
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
I was gonna talk about- let's talk
every
about
time. Talk away, sir.
Let's talk about the nose for a second too.
All right.
Let's do that.
Because
I've already tried that.
For me, the nose with a couple of drops of water, it becomes a lot more caramelly.
Yes.
It's definitely lost any bite.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's
Burn.
because
100%.
I've already had like 3 or 4 glasses of bourbon, but I feel like my senses are getting sharper.
Yes.
And,
I'm becoming
If
super
only,
human.
if only you could have seen Josh's face when he said that to me. I feel like I have to turn away from
Bourbon
you.
makes Kentuckians superhuman.
you're blushing. What's going on?
I think it's just because
But
it's
I
really hot in
actually
here.
I actually am I'm picking that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's all I'm picking up. None of the bananas and all the other.
It's very rich. It's very
Yeah, it's just perfect. There's no sting at all. It's just everything you want bourbon to be on the nose.
Yeah,
almost reminds
for sure.
me that and I could be way off on this because like I say I'll be the first to admit I'm not very refined on this stuff, but it all like my first reaction was kind of that double oaked sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
I like that.
That,
So I guess what you're just getting is the oak influence, just the
I
wood
guess,
influence
maybe
from
so,
it
yeah.
Which
being
is
rested.
our number one
that's
favorite
my disclaimer.
thing.
That's one of my main love.
We just want to taste that.
Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. Love
That's
that.
our pappy. That is our pappy at the Rusty Pistol. If you ever want to bring a bottle and come party with us, bring that.
You know what's funny too is I actually get a little bit of chocolate
Little chocolate.
on the nose too. Just a slight hint as I've been
Nestle or Hershey's?
milk chocolate.
Okay,
for
not
sure.
darker.
Yeah,
Not dark, just the milk chocolate.
it's a lighter chocolate smell.
Cacao.
Anyway, sure.
All I want to know is
That's too straight for me.
Can we stop talking about it and start drinking
Let's
it?
drink it.
Yeah,
Yes.
All right,
Okay. Cheers again, I guess.
Finally. God,
Finally.
mercy.
Completely changes it. I think it just completely changes it.
Wow, that is the way to do it, people.
And that's actually how I prefer to drink Maker's Cask. And I don't normally add water to my bourbon,
Never.
but
No.
Nor
with
ice.
just with a couple drops of water.
To be fair to the listeners, when we're saying adding water, we literally
It's drops.
we're dipping our finger in a water glass
just-
and letting a couple drops
Splash.
fall off in. I did that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
nothing-
we're
yeah.
not talking about
Nothing
taking
heavy.
Yeah,
a glass
Dip
and-
the glass in a icy water.
minimal water, but enough to
I see what
total
you're saying.
change
Yeah.
change the
Takes just
complexity
a,
of it.
by the way, did you list the proof on this before
Yeah.
we spoke?
Yeah.
What was it again?
110.9.
110.9. Now that is actually low for a cask strength bourbon.
It is indeed. It's up there with Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which now is up to 116.
But to me,
Wow.
that's where I kind of want it. I mean, you can get a little carried away.
With 136.9.
It gets to a point where it's sort of
wow. That's
painful.
okay.
Yeah.
You know?
All right.
I mean,
Punish me for loving bourbon now.
Yeah.
Let me put my hazmat suit on.
Yes. So that was really nice, and really want to
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that, because that is something that we've really wanted to try.
Of course.
Josh was lucky enough to be a musician that plays at bars and was able to.
I don't know if that's a lucky thing, but okay.
Come on. For all of us who can't sing,
Depends on the pay.
it is, yeah. But for me, this was my one chance to try it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it, people.
I was happy to bring it for you guys.
I was happy to hear you're bringing. Hell, I wouldn't have been doing this if it wasn't for that.
That's right. I don't know if y'all know, he's big around here.
Well, I did bring something. Yeah, Josh, it was a real get for us to have Josh on the podcast.
I'm
apparently.
kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
I have many leather-bound books.
San Diego.
Yes.
It's Spanish for a whale's vagina.
My apartment smells of
Can you
rich
say
mahogany.
that? Oh, wow.
I'll bleep it. I won't.
Well, just to give you, y'all have heard about me. If you're a listener to the podcast, I'm a bourbon enthusiast. I'm an alcohol enthusiast. Bar owner of many bootleg bars and establishments, but proprietor. There's nothing to own.
Owner
here.
operator.
Yeah, you all own everything that I do. Everything I do is for you all.
That's a hearty pour.
It is. But he poured that for himself.
Well, no,
notice.
this is going to be our review for the episode.
The official review is even coming.
Yes.
But Josh is here. He's a good friend of mine. I've ridden horses with him since he was about 14. He went away from us.
I'm 16 now.
Yes, a mere 16. He packed a lot in there. Yeah, he packed a lot in there. But he went away from us years ago, about 8 or 9 years ago, to finish his college career in Montana. He is a good Lexington boy with some Danville and Bardstown type heritage.
Never, no Bardstown.
No Bardstown. Well, we like to embrace Bardstown.
Danville and Aaronsburg.
But he actually
Bardstown's just in your spirit.
Yes, that's right. He grew up around this area. He's central.
It's
Lexington
okay.
boy.
He's only my unofficial biographer.
I just
right.
like the waxing poetic that's going on.
Right.
Right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about this.
I'm just letting you know who's on your podcast. You already know Perry, you know me, but Josh did go to Montana to finish his college career, and I'll let him expound on this. And ended up doing some cowboying and spent about 7 years out there in the land of no bourbon, as he spoke of earlier. If you're
limited bourbon.
Yeah, very limited.
Bourbon.
And
limited selection.
And the further north in Montana you went, the more Canadian you were surrounded by.
They don't know what bourbon. They don't know good bourbons. God love them. They're good folks. Loved them all. They don't know good bourbons. They don't know how to do green beans right. They've never heard of corn pudding.
Nope.
Well, what kept you there?
Go visit in the summer. You'll see.
Yeah, just
course.
visit. Yeah, so he did spend his time keeping a lost art alive, and that is ranching by horseback of cattle, and roping every day. Making sure the calves hit the ground and the stock got branded, and it's something by horseback. It's not done very much anymore. It's an honest living, and if you want to hear how that translates coming back home, he's back in Lexington, Kentucky, and try to catch him at a venue near you. Look for Josh Butcher or the Ranahans.
And if you need a horse broken,
yep,
he's your guy.
I don't do that
he literally
anymore.
broke horses 8 to 5,
I
like
don't do
clocked
that
in,
anymore.
clocked out.
That's a young man's game.
Don't
I
blame
It's a
me.
young man's
Don't blame
game.
me for not doing that.
If it's gentle, I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. He might buck. I don't know.
All right, we'll give her a shot. So anyway, now
Well,
you
he's
know.
bucked 8 out of 10 times, and
Nope.
Yeah. But just wanted you to know who you're listening to. Josh would come visit us about once a year.
real life cowboy.
Yeah, real life cowboy. Come visit us about once a year, and he really loved to embrace the mint juleps around Derby time. He took the mint julep to a bar. Was it Stacy's?
Stacy's Old Faithful. That was in
Shout out to
Gallatin
Stacy's.
Gateway. Yeah, shout out to Stacy's.
Woo, Stacy's.
Love Stacy's. Probably one of the greatest places I've ever.
Genuine cowboy
I've
bar,
ever
people.
Pretty much lived there. I'm not
You could
ashamed
ride
to
your
say
horse
it.
to it, tie up.
Yep. Just a great old cowboy bar in Gallatin Gateway, Montana. But yeah, I actually had to call you on Derby Day and say, Brett, give me your julep recipe.
Yeah.
I got to do this right for these folks.
And as I explained making simple syrup, he said, "Oh, That's why they don't call it complex syrup. It's one part water, one part
that's
sugar.
That's gonna be on your tombstone, I think.
Oh, that's okay. That doesn't take
take long.
degree from MIT to figure that one out.
No, but he became the bartender on Derby Day, and
I did, and they were kind enough to just let me do it. So it was a great place, great experience, and I like to think I spread the gospel of bourbon and all things bourbon, and all things Kentucky for that matter.
That's right.
Well, we have a true man of the world here.
Yes,
That's right.
Renaissance man.
Sure.
Now you know
Yeah.
you're listening to.
Well, Josh, we really do appreciate you being on the show. It's
I
been a lot of
appreciate
fun
you
having you.
having me, man.
This has been a fun little conversation too about house bourbons and everything. But we're going to move on to something a little more serious, where we tell you whether or not you should be drinking this bourbon. And
I thought you were going to say stem cell research.
Yeah, I did too. Or
border policy. So anyway, we're going to be reviewing Weller Special Reserve, which we've not actually reviewed on the show before. But this for a long time was people's house bourbon.
Absolutely.
Yes. Before the Pappy craze hit and people found out that it was just younger Pappy. So I figured that it'd be nice to dive into this in a more exploratory, not exploratory, but
we're going to dissect it.
Dissective
We're all
way.
watching
There
you.
we go.
What's the word?
I couldn't think of it. I really did blank there for a second. It was like I had never spoken a single word in my entire life.
Well, I'll jump in here.
It's his first day.
A few years ago, a buddy of mine, Greg Baldea, hope you listen to this. We had a little side company called Creative Cocktails Lexington.
Couldn't even remember the name.
Yeah, Creative Cocktails
LLC.
Lexington.
Yes.
But this was our house bourbon because it was available and delicious, and more importantly, it drank very nicely by itself, but it made a splendid cocktail.
I actually prefer Weller 107 in cocktails.
Right,
if I'm going for
the
Weller.
antique.
Yes.
Is that the antique?
Sorry.
Yeah, but we're
Antique
talking
107.
purely just a house bourbon here that we could buy in bulk and know we had something very special.
Our neighbor Ben actually
listen to
procured
this,
a bottle of the 112 here very
112,
recently. We've been enjoying.
a handle of 112.
No, wait. Not 112. Weller 12.
Weller 12.
It's 90. Yeah. There's no 112 Weller.
As far as you know.
I'm 100% positive there's no Weller
We're
112.
Googling.
We may have to call Ben and
Let's
have an
get
extra
Ben over
guest
here.
to the podcast.
Siri,
Call Ben.
We got a problem here.
Yeah, but we do love Weller here, and it was almost a tragedy to us when it became
Allocated.
literally allocated, and very hard to find.
So frustrating. It's
And-
so frustrating.
So when
This
he
is what
said,
happens when you put Jack Daniels in my system.
that's right.
You come surly.
But Perry said we're deviating from house bourbons. This is the house bourbon and was the house bourbon for
So long.
several really, really, really nice craft cocktail establishments here in Lexington who had bartenders who really found a love for making a bourbon
Is this
cocktail.
a Buffalo Trace product?
It is a Buffalo Trace product, yes.
And here we go, right back to Buffalo Trace.
And of course, for anybody who doesn't know, Weller is, as I kind of alluded to earlier, it's a wheated bourbon. So they've replaced rye in the mash bill.
Wheated.
They've
Not
replaced
wheated.
Wheated.
They've replaced rye in the mash bill with wheat. Which, same thing with makers. It just provides a sweeter bourbon, a sweeter experience on the palate. But so our review system on the show is 4-tiered. It's nose, palate, finish, and price.
Okay.
Each category is out of 5, and then at the end we tally everything up for a total out of 20, and then we let you know whether or not you should be buying this bourbon or not. So, just for you guys, I bring that up early in the process, just for you guys to kind of keep it in mind.
Okay.
Thank
as
you.
we go through the process of dissecting this bourbon.
Good to know. Good to know.
For me, the nose it's not insignificant, but it's not my favorite part of this. Like, it's inviting and it's really decent, but it's just not it's not exciting for me necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd say it's very sort of. Yeah, it's not its strongest suit.
It's
It's
very
got a little something extra.
It does, and I think what it is that it just smells like a baked good. Like, it kind of smells cookie-y.
Cookie E.
Cookie E. There's a dash Y on the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just there's nothing that really just jumps out at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Just pleasant. It's just
It's pleasant. I like that. We'll go with pleasant.
yeah, for sure. But anyway, oh, and there's a little bit of I just got a little bit of like an earthy quality to it too, actually. But that may just be me. But anyway, I think this might be the 6th cheers on the show. But guys,
we like to do that.
to a good night, and Josh is going to play Parlay Social later
Yeah.
too.
Parlay
so
Social.
Yeah. So anybody
Cheers.
that goes there, and now you know why I forgot the words to half the songs.
Yep.
Got a little spice to it.
Yeah, it was spicy
which
meat.
is so weird for a weeded bourbon. But I totally agree with you. Like rye in bourbon is typically what provides that spiciness, but where it's weeded, it should be mostly eliminated. But it does maintain some spice on it. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, that's
And I think that's why when the whole kind of craft cocktail thing emerged, that this became such a popular house bourbon. Because you had a bourbon that wasn't obtrusive, but could maintain its character in a cocktail.
Definitely.
And that explains why you're tasting the spice. You feel a little bit of the proof, but you get that flavor with none of the negative aftertaste like you might get with a cheaper house bourbon. I like it.
The finish, as we call it, the aftertaste, is really kind of peculiar to me. It's not bad necessarily, but it is kind of. It almost makes me question if I want another sip of it. And that may be.
it didn't me. I just took another one.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I'm
yeah.
still going to drink it, don't get me wrong, because I think the palate is the best part of this. If not the price. The price is pretty daggone awesome at about $20.
Yep. I like the fact that they didn't take advantage of the situation, the rarity, and they kept this at its standard price point.
Absolutely.
Which is where it should be.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely-
under $30. You need to be able to get this.
There's almost like a. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what it is on the finish that I am having a bit of trouble with, and I think what it is. And I know this is going to sound super crazy and kind of off the wall, but it almost tastes like watermelon. Watermelon.
Okay, you lost me on that.
We'll try that a little bit later, by the way. I've not had this
What
before.
is this?
Ezra Brooks.
Oh, yes, a classic.
I've not had
classic.
Ezra Brooks before.
Kentucky Sour Mash.
Again, in the drunkard's packaging. Plastic pocket size.
Plastic pocket flask. Anyway, there's something. It's just kind of like maybe it's just like citrusy or something on the finish that is kind of competing with the sweet baked goodsiness of the palate. But I don't know.
Which may be the source of the love affair. And then you can think of this, the very
That's
thing
true.
you're
That's
talking
true.
about now, then we project it out 10,
Mm-hmm.
12, 14 years of aging. Maybe I can see why it's so sought after.
Now,
Yeah.
we are following it. This is following Maker's
The
Mark.
Maker's Cask.
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 Yeah,
Well, that's true, but we've also had water in between,
okay.
and I think that we're pretty well warmed up, palate wise.
True.
I'm not too worried about it. I think we're okay. We've not gone too far outside of the
Right. The norm.
Exactly. I think 110 is about the ceiling for jumping back down to a 90 proof. Like if we had gone 120, 130 proof, then I wouldn't have wanted to review this. But I think that at 90 proof, I think it's fine to review it based on what we have just
Which
been
I will
drinking.
say, for a 90 proof bourbon, it has
Significant amount of heat.
Yeah, all that you
Yeah,
would
it's hot.
expect,
Yeah.
or that you would want.
Yeah, for sure.
Again,
For sure.
maybe another check mark in its favor as to why it remains so popular.
Perry is probably the person that knows the most about bourbon at the bar here.
Absolutely.
What is a bourbon that you would like to try but have yet to do?
Ooh, and he's had plenty of opportunity to try a lot.
Or does such exist?
So I tend to kind of recently I've really been wanting to try Dusties, so bottles pre 1990, 1980.
Right. Like they sell at Justin's.
Like what they sell at Justin's. Yeah,
Gotcha,
exactly. I recently purchased a bottle of Jim Beam from 1978,
Nice.
which I've not tried yet, but
My question then is, because I've heard that once it's bottled,
it doesn't
nothing
age.
happens anymore. So what would be the
nothing
difference?
good happens.
Well, okay, right, yeah. What
I don't totally agree with that.
Okay.
And the reason is because older bourbon tends to have this really different quality to it in terms of like it becomes almost
does it taste like an old person's house smells?
musty.
Okay.
It does
Right.
become a little musty actually, which is funny.
So what you're saying, we're not really tasting like if we were to go back in time and drink that bourbon in
When it came
1970,
out.
the minute it
Right.
came out.
Obviously,
we're
yeah.
actually tasting that bourbon as it
As it is now.
inevitably had to change, even in a sealed
yeah, I
bottle.
mean,
Well,
it's-
here's the thing. It depends too on what it's stored in and how it is stored.
Right, an attic
so if
versus
it's
a basement. Or,
yeah, exactly.
right.
If it's in a glass bottle and it's being stored away, completely away from all weather conditions, it's not basically going to change from how it was when it was first bottled.
Okay.
If it's the same bottle, the same glass bottle, but it's in the sun, that's going to affect the
Right.
flavor.
like
if
beer, like the
exactly.
dark bottles. and
Exactly.
clear sure.
If it's in a decanter, which back in the day they still used lead before we realized that it was
Right, right,
detrimental to our health.
Nothing tastes better than lead.
Lead, good old lead poisoning with my bourbon.
That's right. I'll have a touch of lead with my bourbon, please. Just an eyedropper.
That is going to impact the flavor, of course. It's just all a matter of,
It's
the-
multifaceted.
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your question, there are even now older expressions of bourbons that I would like to try. Like I've not had Elijah Craig 18 or 20 or 23, but I haven't had those older expressions yet of Elijah Craig, which I've always just really wanted to try. And like I've had every expression of Pappy, and it's not something that I crave having again.
It's one of those. It's like it's like getting to drive a Rolls Royce once. It was cool. Do I want one?
No, I don't have any use for it.
Yeah.
Don't have any use for it.
Good point. Very very well put.
But for me, it's just older expressions of bourbon. For example, Old Crow pre 1982 or 3 is supposed to be some of the best bourbon you're ever gonna have.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. Don't forget, Old Crow is one of the oldest grain
Yeah.
bills.
Staple.
Yeah.
And aside here that I'm sure you've covered before.
We're history buffs.
On the we're gonna get our history nerd on here for a second. We are currently sitting in this bar on Henry Clay's property.
Yeah.
And
Yep, absolutely. The Ashland Estate.
Ashland Estate, yes. And Henry Clay was a huge fan of Old Crow. And
That was the top
was
of
his
the
house
line
bourbon.
bourbon.
and when he was in his office in Washington D.C., he was said to have always had a barrel there. The purpose being, in his words, to lubricate the wheels of government.
I
Splendid.
love.
All the legislators, all his cronies, of his fellow congressmen they'd all meet in his office and partake of his Old Crow, and that was his explanation.
I love that bourbon used to be sold by the barrel.
Ab-
I was
And
recently.
that's
As it
that's
should
how
be.
our government worked.
Yeah.
That's how
Yep.
that was.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no better way to put it. It lubricated the wheels of government.
Yeah.
Take that as you will. But Henry Clay.
So we digress a bit, but
We do, but
we need to.
only a
we got to
bit.
get our history nerd on every
Yeah,
once in a
sure.
while.
No,
Yeah.
I get. I
Well,
totally
And
agree
well,
with
with that reiterates what we spoke of earlier on the lower shelf bourbons. These are your oldest grain bills. These are your classics
Yeah.
by which the entire industry was built on.
This
Well,
is-
what's
this
great
is
about-
this is
Go ahead.
the cornerstone of
Absolutely.
What's
Yep.
great about Old Crow too is that not only was it a trailblazer in terms of flavor, but it was also a trailblazer in terms of how bourbon was produced.
Right.
So much of the way that bourbon is made now owes to Old Crow for being that trailblazer.
That modern mass-produced bourbon.
So let's move on to our actual categorical review
Okay.
of
Okay.
Weller Special Reserve.
All
You guys
right.
don't mind. So again, it's nose, palate, finish, and price, and each one's out of 5.
I already drank all mine. Is that a problem?
No,
Do we need to reload? We'll probably need to
Yeah.
reload
Look,
for this.
This is
For
100% no skin off my nose. I have plenty of Weller Special Reserve in reserve.
Well,
So
Well,
lucky you.
I think we should get a drink for every category. So let's just review the what's the first category there? Perry?
nose.
Nose. All right. One drink for the nose.
One
all right.
drink for the nose.
Yes.
One drink for my Bonnie.
I.
I don't know. That sounds like a country song.
It's,
Hey Josh, we might be writing a country song.
all
We're
right.
writing a country song right
you
now?
might hear
Did we
on
just
the
become
Did we
podcast.
just
later.
become best friends? Yeah, we did.
Yes. All right. This is the nose.
Again, I think that the nose is inviting, but just not necessarily the best part of this bourbon. Like
I understand.
it just kind of falls a little bit.
you get a touch of the ethanol
flat for me. Yeah.
and then you kind of can lose some of the characteristics afterwards.
So, what would you guys? I mean, individually,
it's
what
very
would you all
gray.
put
Out of what's
Out of
our-
five.
What is it? Out of 5?
out of 5?
I'd
Yeah.
give it a 2.5.
Okay. Brett, what about you?
I'm going to go with a 3 only because we talked a lot earlier, and I continued to reinvest the nose of the bourbon and giving it a few moments for the ethanol to kind of flash
You do
off.
need to give it a few moments.
Yeah.
Don't
Let
that-
just don't just
Yeah,
don't
stick your
just
nose
stick your
in it.
nose in and
Yeah.
judge it right there.
Kind of
Gotta
swirl it
give a
around, let
second.
that ethanol, because alcohol is very light. Let that kind of go away. Let the angel share have a touch of it.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on a 3.
Yeah.
I think that it's just very like, it's not exactly middle of the road, but it's just kind of there. It doesn't provide a whole lot more to the experience, but it is in a way inviting. But I'm not hanging on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't,
thinking
just,
that-
it doesn't just make me want to go.
right.
Oh, I
It's
can't
a
wait to
it's a
drink.
Yes,
3 with
exactly.
it's a 3 with an asterisk
With a caveat.
Yeah, if you're willing to
absolutely.
give it some time and a little effort, you can find some beautiful notes in there. All right. I see our host has
this
gone
probably isn't
past
very-
the nose.
Sorry,
isn't
I wanted to go
it's
ahead
Not very
and-
helpful, but it's not good. It's not bad. It's just
there.
It just is.
Yeah.
Give it
Yeah,
a minute.
for sure.
Take your time. with
Sorry,
it.
I wanted to go ahead and try the.
I thought we got an extra pour for that. You're cheating. Lieutenant, drink your bourbon. Post haste.
That's a,
That's the sound of
That's
the
an
bar
order.
being saluted. No, it's not an order. I'm a non-commissioned officer.
I think the palate is the best part of this bourbon. I really do. I think that this is where you can argue that this deserves to be fairly coveted. Now,
it's got some heat to me.
it does. No, I
I
When
feel
agree,
the
I
heat.
agree
when
with
it
you.
hits the back,
Yep.
Yeah.
I
it's
feel
got
the heat.
it's got some heat. That's what she said. But
Cha-ching.
Michael Scott,
I get it.
Michael Scott, why go away?
Yeah, go away.
But no, it's got some. There's some heat. There's some spice there when it first hits the back of your mouth.
I wish that there were a little bit more there on the palate, which is why, like, for me, I'm giving it a 4.
Right, but now this is irrelevant for because we are talking the theme of the show is house bourbons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
sure.
if you can get a 4 out of a house bourbon, you've done
Oh,
something.
absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, and I would go with that 4 on that one.
But
Yeah.
life's too short to drink anything less.
Cha-ching.
I have to agree with you. What would you? So you would give it a 4
If
as
you're
well?
gonna drink anything less than a 4, what's the point?
All right.
So do you, Josh? Would you also give it a 4 then? He's going back for another sip, folks.
Mine's gone. I'm
gonna
good.
let Brett-
I'm good.
Okay.
Trying to divorce myself from thinking comparatively of other
Right.
things, and that's where I kind of get mixed up a little bit because I'm thinking, yeah, but I could get this instead. And now if this was the only thing you had to offer and I drank it, I'd say, yeah, that's
yes,
a 4.
that's a 4.
That's a 4.
So independently, it would be a 4.
3.7.
Okay. Hey man,
3.7.
look,
That's
we're gonna
fair.
give it a 3.7. I don't
All
mind.
right, it's being put on the
Like I
website
say,
right now.
I'm a
Logging
person-
in
I have
on
to sort
a
of,
digital
I have to sort
device.
of, I have to think of things comparatively, and
Right.
is it really good? Do I like it? Yeah, I like it. Is there something else I'd maybe rather have? that would be a
No,
hot,
I
that
agree with you. To me, I would rather have Elijah Craig.
Okay.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to just think of it individualistically as just it.
As the thing. Yes.
And yeah,
I think it's a 4.
I've still got to give it a 3.7. Man.
All right, now,
If we
Perry,
can do it
a 4 out
decimal.
of 5 for house bourbons? Is it a separate
Just in
category?
no, this is just in general.
We have to do. I mean, are
Yeah.
we doing whole
Solid
numbers?
3.
Are we doing fractions?
Solid
or?
3.
You can do. Hey man, you can do whatever fraction. We had somebody give a 3.8 on something once.
No.
I
so
just gave it 3.7.
Yeah.
it's a first.
I was going with the house bourbon theme on
Oh,
the
okay.
4. No, it is a solid 3. As you go to the bourbon shelf, as we spoke of earlier, there's so much to choose from.
However, let me say this though. If I was to go to someone's house and I said, "Hey, what do you got? What's your house bourbon you got here?" They said Weller Special Reserve. I'd say,
Boom, pour me.
pour me one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you have to realize, when you're saying 3 out of 5, 5 should be literally almost unattainable.
Everything. Yeah, 5
Yeah.
is. There's no such thing as.
Yeah,
5.
that's the ether. That's the ether. Yep.
4.9 would be my max out.
Right.
So five is the.
Yeah.
Well, sometime I need to bring you guys what I have rated a 5
Okay.
What
on
had
this
you
show.
rated a 5?
The Buffalo Trace Antique Collection William LaRue Weller, which is basically just
That's a
the
mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
it's the-
which I would like to have full of bourbon.
it's
right
the barrel proof version of Weller Special Reserve.
now. Okay.
And it's I think it's 12 years old.
All right.
I can't remember exactly,
That's a 5.
but
That
Yeah.
to you, and you're telling me that's perfection.
That'd be a splendid addendum to
It's-
our blind
yeah,
bourbon tasting.
we will be doing that
podcast.
in the future.
To me, I'm going to have to call it a 4.98 because there's just no such
There's
thing.
no
as,
such
there's
thing.
no such thing as perfection.
Well,
there is no 5.0.
We'll do that in the future. But what do you guys think about the finish on this? though?
Again, finish is really nice.
It is. It actually is. I mean, to me, when I first drink it, it goes. I don't really get a front, a front of my palate. It pretty much hits me right in the back, and it's hot and it's spicy, and
But flavor forward.
but then it's
still.
then it finishes pretty nice. It's kind of like that. If you can get past that momentary sort of heat, then it's sort of just it finishes out real nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the subject of this podcast being some of these house bourbons and the bottle and bonds and the bottom shelf classics. That finish that Josh talked about is sort of the make or breaker.
Yeah.
That's that what leaves you.
Yeah, to me,
After
that's
you're
what
done drinking, you've walked, you set your glass down.
Yeah.
This is what leaves you
Do I want
carrying on.
Do I want to take another
Exactly.
drink of
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes, 100% agree with
And
that.
and that is one thing I can say about this Weller. It leaves you.
Because
Okay,
there's
I'll have
some that
another
I've
one.
had, and
Yeah.
I can't think of any, specifically off the top of my head that I just drink, and the initial hit is, beautiful.
Yeah,
But
great.
then it finishes not so
Yeah,
great. And I can't say I really am excited about that next drink.
Well, for me,
So the finish to me is
Right.
very, very.
The kind of
Important.
the metallic thing that we talked about earlier. You can't quite put a word on, but
Right.
it's not pleasurable.
honestly, for me, the finish is the lowest point for this bourbon. I gave it a 2.5.
Wow.
I'm going through solid 3 on that.
Okay.
3 to 4.
Brett, you're at 3s across the board so far.
But
Yeah.
again, that's 3s
Wow.
on a
Yeah.
very hard scale.
Right. Yeah.
We're not, because you didn't just say we are judging a house bourbon. We are judging a
We're
bourbon.
judging a bourbon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. On a 1 to 5 scale, that's pretty tough too, because there's I've got to go decimals on that.
Yeah.
So
Going decimals
What
here.
did you give it on the finish?
I'd
Oh, I
give
don't
it-
think you said.
Not yet.
On the finish, I'd give it a 3.2.
All right.
Josh has the most divisive
Well, I'm telling
score
you,
so far.
3.2.
It's better than a
5.9,
3, but it's not a.
4.
I don't know, man.
Because it's not a bad finish. It's not awful.
This stuff for me is so hard to quantify.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to quantify. I have to either
I get
drink
that.
it.
I get that.
To me, it's either I drink it. For me, it'd be easier. Drink it. Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Right.
That's
Thumbs
Sure.
up, thumbs down.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay, we're gonna.
Would you drink it again?
So we have one more category though, and then we'll give the overall thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay.
But it's price.
Do we get more bourbon for this?
No,
Sure,
you don't
why
get-
not?
you
All
don't-
right, another pour.
Josh has to play tonight,
Yeah,
so
Parlay Social. He has to be able to actually
is-
remember.
Wednesday night.
What is its price point? What is the price point?
$20.
$20.
All right.
Okay.
Well, now is that a research retail price?
Yeah,
or
that's MSRP.
MSRP. $19.99.
Pretty much.
The bottle's gone,
All right.
but
Yeah.
for me, if it's my turn, I don't know if it's my turn or not.
You go, man.
on,
You go
sir.
ahead.
Speak
I would
on.
probably pick up a bottle of just stock Buffalo Trace.
Over this,
Which should be about the same price, right?
Well, I at MSRP, Buffalo Trace goes for about 25.
So actually more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But Weller has played on the rarity,
Yes, exactly.
but
Exactly.
not raised their price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Give me Buffalo Trace, by God, all day long.
yeah. For me, it's for another $5, I'd get Buffalo Trace.
Because you don't have to wait
So
for
you're
it to
ta-
come in. You don't have to
Exactly, yeah.
stand in line or anything of that
I mean,
sort.
just
of thing.
because it's a fancier looking bottle and a different label, personally, I just enjoy the stock Buffalo Trace a little bit
Yeah.
better.
So
Alright.
you're talking like a 2 or 3?
I can't say that I would, if given the option, I would probably and $5 is whatever. I don't
$5 is $5.
because I'm that's the lavish lifestyle that I live.
Well, we'll put you at a 2 point.
mus-
We'll put you at a
$5
2.5.
is
The
nothing.
musician's lifestyle.
$5 is nothing to me. That's the extravagant lifestyle that I live.
right.
We'll put you at
for another-
2.5.
I'd splurge another $5 for something else personally.
Sure. Yeah. I'll put you at a 2.5 then. I think that's
Okay.
about where you're talking.
Thank you.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn. Yes.
All right. I like to say I go along with much of what Joshua has said. There is a little bit of a soft place in my heart for the Weller, having served many a cocktail as the house bourbon for my my little business and that sort of thing. So,
Okay, but that's you got to take emotions out of this.
right, you got to take the emotions out.
It's all
That's not going to help our listeners.
I know it's not gonna
it's
help.
all objective. It's not subjective here.
Yeah.
I still think I can manage a solid 3 on the vast scale of walking up to.
Hey,
Just,
three-
just stop
three again.
laughing.
3's across the
You
board.
just can't commit to anything.
I'm very non-committal.
But he's getting married next weekend.
I am
so-
getting married, but very non-committal. Do not allow anyone to hear this who knows my fiance. But what I'm saying about the Weller is it is a fine bourbon.
It is a fine bourbon.
There's no complaints.
No disputing that.
No disputing.
that.
It holds up very well to cocktails. But if those attributes can be had for $5 less with Buffalo Trace, yes, I
Five
support
more.
Joshua.
5 more.
5 more. Yeah, $5 is $5. Yes. So then with Weller, there's a rarity aspect because of people finding out that it is
Sure.
basically Pappy, young Pappy.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell people that. Yeah. Sure.
I'm saying a solid 3. It puts it right in the heart of your great choices. We're talking a grade of 3 amongst the best of all whiskeys in the world, people.
For sure.
Ireland, Scotland, these people dream of having our water,
And that's to take nothing away from Irish whiskeys and Scotch
Yeah.
whiskeys. You guys got your thing. And
you
it's
got your
great,
thing. But Kentucky is famous
and we-
for our water.
we wouldn't have what we have if it wasn't for y'all. But,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
yes, I like to think we stepped it up.
Yep. So the solid 3 is not by any means a negative note here.
So
It
I
is
feel like we've probably all we need to talk about it as far as your solid 3 goes.
okay.
Well, I gave it a 3 on price too. I think
Boom!
that $20
Oh, that's-
is
like
it's
I give it a 4 on price. I'm going to change this up. That is a splendid price, but it's only when you can find it.
yeah. Well, and And this is based on solely.
Don't let scarcity sway you.
That's the thing too, is that I base this solely on MSRP.
Right.
It has to be suggested retail price.
And that was my point I was making earlier. Buffalo Trace you tend to overlook because it's always on the shelves.
Right.
Yeah.
There's never a question. You can always get it.
Yeah.
But for me, I like it better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
for $5 more.
So we all scored it above a 10. I gave it a 12.5. Brett gave it a 12. Josh gave it an 11.5.
Still
11.68.
Yeah, he was actually.
I'm just
Your
kidding, but-
phone is wrong.
Yeah.
No,
He is a mathematician.
but in all seriousness, it's if you can get your hands on it,
I think
go
it's
for it.
fine.
Go
It-
for it.
Right.
It's there are other bourbons I would rather drink or buy.
Are you going to spend $20 on that and regret it?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely
No,
not.
Absolutely not.
100% not. 100% not. But I think that there are other things out there that are more worth your money.
Sure. And for
No,
not
it-
that much more. And, maybe,
Well put.
Yeah.
$5 is $5. Whatever. If that buys you a pack of smokes or whatever, that's your thing. But for me, yeah, I mean, for another $5, there's probably other things I would get.
Yeah. And is it a good house bourbon? Yeah, I would think so.
Absolutely. Is it a good house bourbon? Which is, at the end of the day, is the question. Yes.
I say yes as a cocktail
Three
enthusiast.
thumbs
yes,
up.
Yes.
3 thumbs up?
Three.
Where's the third one
there's
coming
three of us
from?
sitting here.
Well, you're
Okay.
here.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
here.
Oh,
Josh is
sorry.
here.
I didn't know if it was
or
you.
6. I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, I get it now. Okay. Well, anyway, so that's our review of Weller Special Reserve. We have one more segment before we close out the show, and that's our recommendation segment. It's called Tips and Bits.
Tips and bits.
It doesn't have to just be bourbon. It can be anything that you've been
Okay.
vibing on recently.
All right.
So, guys, what would be your tips and bits this week?
Ooh, can we bring in Joshua's newest purchase?
Sure. Why not?
All right. Let's throw Bullet Rye in the mix.
Sure.
Yeah,
Go
if you
for it.
like, if you want to change it up a little bit and shake things up, and like I say, I'm a bourbon guy through and through, but that doesn't mean, there's no shame in going outside the box. If you're a Scotch guy, if you like your Scotches, go for that. If you're Irish whiskey, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I like to shake it up a little bit. I like my gins. That's
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what I've got
Yep,
a
love
soft
my
spot
gins.
for gin, and as it turns out, I've got a soft spot for rye.
By the way, make your gin and tonics with cucumber and not lime.
Oh yeah, that's
Completely
that's
changes the
amazing,
game.
amazing change.
It's so good with lime, with cucumber instead of lime. Right, Lucy?
Right.
Yep, that's my daughter Lucy
Yes.
right
Lucy's
there.
here.
The
Beautiful
reason
wife
I
just walked
even
in.
know Perry at
Wow.
all. She's chimed in on many of these podcasts.
She really has more than you would think.
Yep.
She just comes in to save
it's just
the dumpster fire that is what we have going on.
Yeah, this is pretty much.
I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
Lucy, do you have any
Cool.
tips and bits this week?
Tips and bits from Lucy.
Come back to me.
Oh,
right.
okay, fine.
Here's my
Jeez.
tips and bits. For
Are
the
you-
love of God, use your turn signals.
You're not in Ohio anymore. This is Kentucky.
Don't freaking cruise in the left lane if you're going slow, and use your freaking turn signals. Okay.
Very, very well put.
This is off topic of alcohol and
Are you
bourbon.
sure?
But that's the point. It can be anything that you want to recommend.
It's not really tips and bits. It's more of a
Right.
rant. That's more of a.
And if you're from
It's more of an
Ohio,
airing. This is George Costanza over here. This is
Airing of grievances.
Yes,
Yes.
airing of grievances.
it's not even December yet.
I've got
Yeah.
a lot of bones to pick with you people.
That's right.
Use your turn signals. for
Turn
the
signals.
love.
I find tinsel distracting.
It's not that hard.
The fast lane versus the slow lane is not a opposite conundrum. All right, I know because your license plate says Ohio, you think it's okay to do the opposite.
If I'm passing you in the right lane, you are part of the
We
problem.
have a problem here. Yeah. Okay, so
All right.
Lucy.
I'll bounce off of Josh's public service announcement and give another public service announcement. The word voila is in hey, voila in French is a V, not a W. It is not voila.
Not voila.
It's
It
voila.
is voila with a V.
Okay, well, we're on the grammatical thing here. Irregardless is not a word.
That's right.
It's not a word. Regardless is a word. Irregardless is not a word.
That's the complete opposite. There's no guardless.
That's right.
There's no guardless. It's just regardless
Well, no, wait a
or
minute.
not.
I am the administrator of the Department of Redundancy Department.
Yes. Love that. Love that.
I say it is.
It's probably the best part of the show to watch. Right?
Okay.
Listen to right here.
Well, my tips and bits
This
for
is the
this
drunken
week.
part, by the way.
My tips and bits for this
Angry
week.
drunk people giving
We're
you.
not angry.
we're not angry. We're
We're
great.
all-
We have just been drinking.
Yeah.
You know what? If we're angry, it's because we had to drink Jack
All right.
Daniels.
So, all right.
We did though.
Did y'all listen to that?
brought
Because
Jack
I know. Here's the thing, Perry.
This is what Jack Daniels does to you right here.
Here's the sad thing, because Perry puts so much work and thought into his podcast, and there's a structure, there's a program that we follow, but I know that many of you just literally fast forward to 5 minutes before the end,
to the-
regardless of how long the podcast is.
and bits,
Let's
right?
just go to 5 minutes before the end, see how drunk they are, and the ridiculous, crazy
Hey, thank
things.
you for your download, though. We really do appreciate that.
Yes, we do appreciate
We
this.
love you all.
And
every one
remember,
of you.
use your turn signals and stay out of the
Turn
left lane unless you're
signals.
passing.
To do so much
Don't make us
editing.
earn this illicit rating of Spotify, okay?
Okay, my
All right.
tips and bits are
Tips and bits.
Change your guitar strings because after a while they sound terrible and are dead. And then drink Kentucky Ale because I've really been on a big Kentucky Ale
Go Altec.
kick recently.
Yeah,
They're awesome. Anyway, thank you guys for sticking with us
Absolutely.
on this really funny but
It's
kind of
getting
out there
funnier.
episode.
Don't leave.
God bless America.
And you for listening.
Yes,
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you. Is there anywhere on social media that people can find you guys before we?
No.
Okay, Josh does
On
know.
purpose. Actually, look for the Ranahans.
Oh yeah, go check out the Ranahans. They're great, great band in Lexington, Kentucky.
It's a bunch of super hyper talented people who love the classic old country swing. If you like the Texas swing, I'm telling you, you're going to love them.
For sure.
They've got more and more gigs all the time, so check them out.
Yeah, Lucy, where can people find you on social media?
On all of the social media.
Yeah, but what's? Never mind. I don't care.
And 4th
My
of
name's
July
Lucy
coming up.
Bellamy
Happy
Ritter,
4th of
just
July.
search
Happy
everyone.
4th of July. Yes,
Yes,
that's
happy
right.
4th, everybody, and
And-
happy wedding weekend to
That's
Brett
right.
as
All
well.
our
It's gonna be a
servicemen
spectacular.
and women, current and past and current.
Thank you
Yes.
for your
Thank you
service
for
to
your
our country.
service. Indeed.
Absolutely.
And happy birthday, America.
Let's
I-
consider all those clinks you heard earlier. Toast to you.
Absolutely, 100%. So if you want to find me personally on social media, I am at pritter1492, pretty much across the board. If you would like to follow the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then we are bourbonshop.threadless.com if you want to check out our apparel and accessories and all that good stuff. If you want to send us an email to ask us questions, you can hit up thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. We'd be happy to, talk about you on the show and answer your questions. Dixie's going crazy in the background, but that's okay.
Guard dogs.
You can also become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us keep doing this.
Yes.
We would really appreciate your patronage.
Just $1, folks. Come on.
Just $1.
It's
Come on, people.
yeah, exactly. Give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you're listening. That is going to help us, get more in the public eye. We would really like to become part of iTunes News and Noteworthy page.
Noteworthy.
Too, which would, really help us reach new listeners and everything. But speaking of listeners, thank you all so much for
Love you guys.
hanging out with us. You all have been awesome. You are the best possible fans that we could have. We really do appreciate everything that you do for the show. Also, Tuesday nights, I have been doing this live stream on Instagram and Facebook, so always be sure to check that out. Brett and Josh, thank you guys so much for being here.
Oh,
This has
thanks
been
for
a
having us.
really fun episode.
Big
We've
honor,
done
big
this so
honor.
many times not on air, so
Yes.
you might as well do it on
Yeah,
air.
why not?
That's why the show started too.
Hey, you guys come drink with us sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to doing this on video. So
Yeah,
everyone
absolutely.
can see the Rusty Pistol and
Absolutely.
and know that everyone is welcome. This whole idea that we have here, it is everyone, man. We love everybody. We want anyone who has a love of bourbon maybe a love of
Unless you're Al Qaeda or terrorist or something.
That's right. we don't really like the whole terrorism thing. If you're not terrorist, you have no problem with some good Kentucky individualism. This is Kentucky at its heart, man.
If you're a terrorist, stop drinking our bourbon.
Yes.
Stop it.
No
right now.
terrorists allowed.
That was a very weird diatribe that we just went towards. But anyway,
Again, this is why people only listen to the last 5 minutes of your podcast. All right.
Oh, communists too.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
now entering the last 5 minutes of his podcast.
I'm just going to say thank you.
Just ignore the whole first part. All that scientific analysis of bourbon, all that stuff we did earlier. Just forget all that.
I have lost total control of this show. I'm going to have to throw in like some music or something here to show that I still have control over it.
All right, well,
Next week, I am going to be having on a couple of special guests. Colin Cox and John Phelps from the Hop Ons podcast, where they talk about Arrested Development. We're going to be drinking bourbon and talking one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Great show.
Great show.
Yeah, I mean, so good. But anyway, be on the lookout for that. Thank you all again so much for listening. But until next week, I'm Perry, and this is my Bourbon Podcast.